Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to Versus Series, where a member of my team, Acebreakers, faces off against a well-known or up-and-coming pro player. Now, for this week, we have the latest member of Acebreakers, Zumwanna, who joined, I think, about a week ago, who will be playing against Theude. Now, some of you may know Theude from the qualifiers, where he had to drop out for personal issues, and was unfortunate because he went through with flying colors and was doing extremely well. However, we will still get the chance to see him play, as we have him on as the opponent for this week. So, without further ado, let's go on to the decks. Alright, so Zumwanna has brought forward a Druid list. Now, this particular Druid list is playing the 1 BGH. Now that's pretty common because of all the handlock running around at the moment. But besides that, it's a pretty ramp heavy list. We've got a huge amount of high drops. Kel'Thuzad, Rag, and Cenarius in the same list. That is an incredibly greedy curve. On top of that, we've got all 4 Ancients and 2 of the 6 drop trio, along with 2 Sunwalkers. If you can see the curve on this thing, it'd be absolutely huge. The only reason you can get away with this curve, of course, is because of double Innervate and also double Wild Growth. Something interesting to notice is that there's only 1 4-drop, well technically 3, but Keeper is not always a 4-drop. Whereas in terms of 5 drops, there is a grand total of 6 of them. So this deck really starts to get going at turn 5, I'd say, or with Wild Growth, turn 4. Anyway, Theude has brought forward Giants Took Your Family. This is a common theme with his deck list. They're all named after certain ways of taking your family. Now, this is a handlock list. Now, as tradition with handlock lists, it's kind of weird where Alexstrasza and Jiraxis are above the Giants, even though that's never how the costs work in the actual game. However, this particular list is playing double Siphon Soul, 1 Hellfire, 2 Shadow Flames, which is pretty standard at the moment because it makes it much, much better in the mirror. Then double Iron Beacons come back a lot, and the singular Mortal Coil. Don't really want 2 a lot of the time, but 1 can really help out from time to time. Jiraxis has been seeing a lot of extra play recently, simply because it's amazing against control decks. However, having Jiraxis and Alexstrasza in the same list is something unique that I have not seen that much of recently, although it's not entirely unheard of. Anyway, on to the mulligans. So we have Theude on the bottom and Zumwanna at the top. Now Theude is just sending back his entire hand because it's against Druid. As for Zumwanna, I think I only keep the Keeper, actually. I could see keeping the Wrath, although it does leave you in a bit of a weird spot. It's risky, because if it's Zoo you want the Wrath. The reason I'd say keep the Keeper, maybe the Wrath, is simply because the Keeper is good against both. I think you keep the Wrath just to be safe, though. Now, this opening hand is actually amazing for him. He has the BGH and the Keeper, which will deal with both of Theude's possible early threats. As for Theude, he has a Twilight Drake, and that's about it. So when this Twilight Drake goes down, it's going to be a couple of problems for him. Now, besides that, the first couple turns are going to be pretty monotonous, as is normal when the Druid doesn't get ramp or innervate, and the handlock is just going to be tapping every turn, so not exactly much to be talking about at this particular stage of the game. Double Siphon Soul for Theude, though, could come in handy. Most Druids are running ramp at the moment. There is a couple token variants running around, but they're few and far between. Alright, so we've got a Twilight Drake come out here. Now this is going to get immediately silenced, I can imagine. Now, keep in mind that the hands are actually in sync based on when they play the cards, but because of the initial delay in Hearthstone, the card will be drawn at different times on both views. It's a bit disorientating, but it's not exactly avoidable. He's going to have to play the Earthen Ring here, and I think normally playing the Earthen Ring like that is sometimes irritating, but in this case, it's a case of his hand does absolutely nothing, so he needs to put out something. Innervate could be handy here, The problem is if he innervates Ancient War, he plays straight into Siphon Soul. So I think he's just going to go ahead and play Taunt Druid. And then Sunwalker next turn, Ancient War the turn after. So this hand is proceeding to do next to nothing. I think using Siphon Soul here is fine, because you have a second one, you're not really giving up much. And you really need to get to the later turns so you can use your Alexstrasza, you can use your Mountain and Molten Giants later on when you draw them. And also the Jiraxis may come in handy here. Because I do not believe that Zumwanna is running the combo. It's very unusual for a ramp deck to be running the combo. Now, that Faceless Manipulator may be the correct play here. You could also consider Siphon Souling this thing. I think Facelessing it is fine. I mean, if your opponent has Black Knight, it's kind of disastrous, is the main problem. But I do think that playing out the Faceless is fine, and while it doesn't feel that good, using the second Siphon Soul is really harsh here. So while it's a difficult play, I think, can you tap first? No, 10 cards in hand, I think. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It'd be nice to have like a hand count, but no. Alright, so you go for the Siphon Soul. That's really risky, because if there's an Ancient War that comes down here, he's in trouble. As Zumwanna's play of not throwing out that Ancient War early paid off massively. Oh, Golden though, Theude. A lot of Golden Legendaries in this list. It's the kind of thing where it's always nice to see a player investing in one particular list when it comes to Golden cards, because you can tell that they like that list a lot. Now, the problem is that this hand is being incredibly awkward. It's not even a bad hand, it's just entirely situational. This could be a very, very good hand if the situation was different, but against a control deck, this is turning out to be a bit miserable. Also, interesting choice from Zumwanna to throw out the Ancient War instead of the Ancient Lore. I could definitely see why, though. Better to throw out a big guy when you don't need the cards. Not to mention you have Innervate and Coin that you can use with Ancient Lore. I think this Faceless is going to come out at some point. It may as well be now. I don't believe he can tap, though. Alright, so he's going to play the Sun Fury for the sake of it because he has double Defender. Yeah, he couldn't tap, I think. Yeah, he had 9 cards in his hand, so he would have discarded. So, that's something which a lot of people make a mistake of, and it would be nice, by the way, if anyone from Blizzard is listening, it'd be nice if we had a hand count thing for both players for a spectator mode when that eventually comes out, because it just means that I can put up a little interface for that and I don't have to count the cards every time. It's always nice. Once spectator mode comes out, I can guarantee that Versus Series is going to improve in quality drastically. Alright, so for this turn, I think there were 2 lines there that you could go Innervate Ancient Allure, but going for the Wrath is just slower and safer, and I think that's fine. Next turn, he has 9 mana plus an extra 5. So he has access to an absurd amount of mana right now. 14 next turn, along with Ancient Allure. That is crazy. 14 mana in 1 turn is absolutely nuts. Alright, so what we're probably going to see here is BGH and I'm a little confused right now. Okay, bit of bad sequencing, but definitely understandable. It's one of those sort of like, hey, I need to play the BGH, but yeah, bit of bad sequencing, always better to play the Ancient Allure first. So what's he going to draw? He has 4 mana to play with this Ancient Allure. You also could have played the Coin instead of the Innervate there. Yeah, he's paying for it. Now he has to Coin instead. I mean, in the end, it doesn't make that much difference, but it's still a bit of bad sequencing there. Iron Becal is significantly late. So Shadow Flame is just going to come down here on the Loetheb. Lock out your opponent's spells, clear his board, good turn. First proper good turn from Theude in quite a long time actually. It's been pretty rough, this game. Yeah, Loatheb and Sludge Belcher being one of the more ridiculous turns you could come up with. Lock out your opponent's removal, build your board, go from there. So probably going to see tap first. He doesn't have that many options to fill his entire mana. The Sludge Belcher is definitely being played here unless he draws something else. Okay, drawing a second Sludge Belcher is just mockery. So Sludge Belcher comes down here and that's about it. And next turn we can play another one. Sludge Belcher has been one of those cards which was a bit of a sleeper in next, and then everyone realized just how good it was. It is quite interesting that some of the best cards coming out of Naxxramas were 5-drops, which is good because Alpha set didn't really have good 5-drops, and any of the, like all the good 5-drops were nerfed because they were too good. Now, I think playing Ancient of War versus Cenarius. He's going for Ancient of War, and the reason for this is because Cenarius buff doesn't do anything this turn, and Ancient of War actually puts more damage on the board if you think about it. Because it deals 7 next turn instead of the 5 from Cenarius, and he couldn't attack through the Sludge Belcher with the buff anyway. So a good call on Zumwanna's point there. Back to awkward plays. This seems to be the general theme in this particular game. There's a Hellfire that could be used. There's a Mortal Coil. Twilight Drake, I think, may be coming down here. But this Cenarius is one of those cards where it's very, very good in certain situations, which is why you play it. It can be super awkward, but it's the kind of thing where if you're in grindy matchups, it's absolutely incredible. If you're under a lot of pressure, it doesn't do that much because the 2/2s don't stabilize the board enough. However, if you're playing grindy matchups, you can play the 2/2s, and if you have no board, and just 1-for-1 your opponent to death, and Jiraxis, that could be an interesting one here. He's going to have to use that for the life gain. I think I definitely play out Sludge Belcher as the second play. But anyway, you can use the 2/2s to trade off more along with the 5/8 in grindy matchups, and if you have a board position, then you play him, buff your guys, and just break the stalemate. Very, very good in these control-heavy metagames, which is one of the reasons why he's very, very good at the moment. Something else very, very good in the controlling metagames is Kel'Thuzad. Kel'Thuzad at the moment blanks Ragnaroses. Speaking of Kel'Thuzad, keep in mind, guys, I don't watch these ahead of time because otherwise I would not be surprised when I see this stuff. But Kel'Thuzad coming down here is, I think, the nail in the coffin. I don't see a way back from this. He could silence it, but it's still a 6/8 that will swing in for 8. Next turn he's got 8 plus 7, 15, 18 damage. So the game is over next turn if he does not have a response. And he does. He does have that taunt. He's going to go ahead and silence Kel'Thuzad because otherwise it will chew him into pieces. And throw down one of his defenders, hoping that his opponent gets him a little lower so he can throw down the Moltens. Now the interesting question here is, what do you play? I think, swipe change it, Cenarius buffing everything and Innervate Hero Power would clear the Twilight Drake. It would clear everything actually. And keep your entire board alive. So I imagine that's what he's going to do. Does the buff Innervate Hero Power? Yeah, Innervate Hero Power, run the Kel'Thuzad and the hero into the Twilight Drake, and then run the 7/6 into the 3/2, and then the 3/3 into the 2/3. You want to keep... Interesting. So he's going for damage instead? I don't agree with that. I think keeping your board alive is more important. That could be a game-losing mistake. Although I think at this point, it doesn't matter as much. If he had one more mana, this turn would be game-breaking. Jiraxis, double Molten, and a Sun Fury would probably end the game. But he has the Defender, no Sun Fury. So double Molten Defender is a given. The problem is you can't play anything else. I guess you could Ironbeak Owl, the 7/6, bring it back down. He can't kill him. I don't think there's a single top deck that could kill him. So, apart from, I guess, would Leroy do it? No, that's 8 damage. So yeah, double Molten Defender, Ironbeak Owl, I think is the correct play here. Definite mistake from Zumwanna there, bringing him lower than he needed to, because he could have just closed out the game in one swing from 20. That's often how druids can get a leg up on handlock. Okay, so he brings him lower, not tapping for obvious reasons. Bit too low to be going with the tap right now. Faceless. Now, he can clear with a swipe. He can swipe one and then run the 5/5 into it and then run the Kel'Thuzad into the other one. And he has a taunt up as well. So, very good turn. Definitely go for board clear here. Actually, does he just have lethal? No. No, he doesn't. He has to swing one into that. Okay, so he clears out most of the board. That was a bit risky. I think you have to know your opponent's playing Draxus, so that was very risky. He's one off killing that giant. That is huge. I think that means he can't kill it at all, and he just dies. Yeah, there's exactly lethal on the board. He needs to tap. Needing to tap here is pretty miserable. But he has to go for it. And that's game. So close. That game came down to the absolute wire towards the end there. Incredibly close game. Decided by just a couple of top decks. Anyway, so game 1 was one of those things where it was a case of Ramp Druid versus Handlock, which is something that comes up a lot, and it's one of those signature matchups, I'd say, which requires a ton of thought on both sides, and is one of the more entertaining control mirrors, I think, in the game, because they're both control decks, but they're both minion-based control decks, and those provide very interesting interactions on board. And it means the game can swing very easily just based off a few mistakes, which was definitely shown in that particular game. But anyway, Theude has brought forward Tiger, not Tigers, a singular tiger took your family. Now, this is one of those newer aggro hunter decks. Now, I did a meta report about this, and I was thinking, I don't know where Hunter's going. Like, aggro Hunter's still a thing, but I don't know exactly where it's going, and it turns out it was going in the other direction. Now, this one has a couple of interesting things added to it. It's got the standard 1-drop Death Rattle core, which is what makes this so powerful in Hunter. Undertaker, Leopard, and Web Spinner. Incredible trio for Hunters. On top of that, it's playing Haunted Creeper, and utilizes Haunted Creeper better than any other class, along with double Mad Scientist and double Loot Hoarder. A lot of Death Rattles. Just on 1 and 2 drops, there are 5 separate Death Rattles? Yeah, 5 separate Death Rattles, all 2-elves. I mean, when a third of your deck is Death Rattle, on 1 and 2, it's pretty hard to miss the trigger. As for the traps are only freezings, which is why there's only 1 Eagle Horn Bow. Because sometimes you get a trigger, but most likely you're going to be playing these traps off Mad Scientist, which is fine. I'm okay with having 2 sets of Loot Hoarders, one of which is way better than the other one, as long as you have the freezings left in your deck. As the rest of it, we've got Animal Companion, Kill Command, Houndmaster, pretty standard when it comes to the aggro/mid-rangey hunters. Loetheb, showing up as usual, kills the control decks, and 2 of the 3 6-drop trio. Now, Karen has been dropping off recently, I've noticed. And I think the reason for it is because Silence is coming back. Sylvanas has a more swingy effect than Karen, so it's like forcing the silence. Whereas Karen is kind of like, Silence will be a 1-for-1. Whereas with Sylvanas, it's like, if I don't silence it, I lose. And Black Knight is very good right now. The card that I'm sort of leaving to last here is Stranglethorn Tiger. Now, Stranglethorn Tiger, I think, is in this deck to complement Savannah High Main. And what do I mean by that? Stranglethorn Tiger, along with Loatheb and Zumwanna Highmane, have a habit of ripping control decks apart. Zumwanna Highmane is a 2-for-1, Loatheb is a 2-for-1, and Tiger always hits them for 5 or 7 if you have a Houndmaster, although with all the BGHs around right now that's a little risky. But the main point is that the late cards in this deck, if you notice, the curve is quite low, and the only cards that cost more than 4 are designed to kill control decks. Loatheb, good against control. Tiger, good against control. Zumwanna Highmane, good against control. Sylvanas and Black Knight, good against control. The early game is designed to get advantage. The late game of this deck is designed to destroy control decks that can survive the early game. Very well constructed deck. Be very, very nice to see it in action. So anyway, keeping that in mind, onto the mulligans. As there seems to be a weird video thing here. Anyway, as far as Zumwanna is concerned, I think you just send back the entire hand. Now, Theude mulligan incredibly fast. So, on to game 2. As we do have that turn 1 Leopardome. You obviously want turn 1 Undertaker or Web Spinner, but Leopardome is the 3rd best 1-drop in the deck. And the reason for that, especially against Druid, and the reason for that is Undertaker doesn't die and becomes huge, and Web Spinner replaces itself and your opponent puts 2 mana into it, whereas you put 1. The rest of the start though is absolutely crazy. Haunted Creeper, Animal Companion against actually a decent response to aggro. Wrath and Keeper and Sludge Belcher. Be very, very good if he gets the chance to play them. Double Wrath. Now, I think this is going to go badly for Zumwanna because these Wraths don't kill anything. At all. I don't think I'd Wrath this, to be honest. Actually, if you... No, Houndmaster can't be played yet, so I would not Wrath this. Okay, he's going for the Wrath. I think I could understand why he'd Wrath it on turn 3, and the reason for that is because Houndmaster, but in this case I don't think I would. Oh, he's going for the draw. Okay, that makes sense. That does make sense. He didn't go for the kill, he went for the draw. That's absolutely fine. Now, the Leonk is actually a beatdown right now. This is one of those rare situations where Leonk is the best one. Misha, actually, would Misha be better in this situation? I think so. I think Misha is usually the best one. Huffer would be the worst one against Druid. And Leonk is a close second to Misha. Just the hero power. He's going to try and Wrath hero power next turn, I think. If he goes for the Leonk. This is a really, really hard opening to deal with. Killing the spider, I think, is okay. And the reason for it is because he can kill both of them next turn. The problem is he takes an extra, well, 3 damage for doing this because he takes 1 from the creeper. Now, if you notice, he's not playing the freezing because otherwise this mad scientist would get no value. Problem is, this particular start has actually rendered Zumwanna's very, very good anti-aggro start practically useless, to the point when I think I would actually silence the Leonk. Yeah, he's going for the silence on the Leonk, trying to stem some of the damage. I would say we just see Tiger come down and then just go face. Ignore the board. Deal as much damage as is humanly possible, as fast as is humanly possible. If there's no swipe off the top, I think he's just in major trouble. I mean, Sludge Belcher will stem some of the bleeding here, but it's just going to get taken out by the silence, and then that is a turn 6 kill. Yeah, that's game. That was an incredibly fast game. Even the kill command, turn 6 kill, and that was a double Wrath Keeper of the Grove start, by the way. That was absolutely crazy. That was a perfect example as to how good that Hunter deck is against control decks. It ripped it apart. Double Wrath Keeper start is one of the best ways of beating aggro a lot of the time, but that was crazy. Anyway, so Zumwanna has brought a Zoo deck in here, which is a good call because a control deck would not do well here. Zoo is one of those things where it can do well, and it depends a lot on the draw of both players. This particular zoo list is playing double Zombie Chow, double Iron Beak Owl. It's an interesting call there. And besides that, we do have double Dark Iron, double Defender, double Doom Guard, no Loatheb. Zoo in general has been like a weird mishmash of builds recently. There's been double Zombie Chow, single Zombie Chow, random Loathebs, 1 Dark Iron, 2 Dark Irons, Power Overwhelmings, Void Terrors. It's been weird, but everyone has their zoo build, and I don't think we know which is the best one at this point. It's been so long that Zoo's been around with Naxxramas, and no one can figure out the best build because it's very difficult to tell when it comes to Warlock aggro decks, because there's a lot of variance based on the draws and the way you play it. So anyway, keeping that in mind, we'll go into the mulligans. So, basic Black Knight mulligan there from Theude, and we have Harvest Golem and Defender going back. That is because there is a double 1-drop, and he looks like he's going for Harvest Golem anyway. So, onto the game. Now, I expect this one to be very fast. And the reason for that is because this is 2 of the fastest decks in the entire metagame battling it out here. Turn 1 Zombie Chow is one of the better ones he could possibly get. It's nowhere near as good as Undertaker, but it's a close second, especially when playing against other aggro decks. I think you just play Mad Scientist. I mean, you could go Freezing. The problem with going Freezing is that you just skip your turn for his. So he's going to attack the Web Spinner, I should imagine, with the Zombie Chow, and then just coin out his Harvest Golem. Yeah, that seems legitimate. Actually, I could see playing the Egg instead. Yeah, and then you can get a trade. Yeah, I actually like playing the Egg instead. Because next turn you can go Zombie Chow, coin Abusive Sergeant, or Harvest Golem, coin Abusive. Which seems fine. Now, I imagine this is getting Iron Beak Owled, or Mad Scientist. I think Iron Beak Owl is the safer bet here. You can't play into Abusive. Well, I mean, he's gonna trade off anyway, but it's the kind of thing where you really just want to get things off the board. Alright, so we're definitely seeing Abusive come down here, and I think the other call is probably Harvest Golem? I think Harvest Golem, yeah. The logic to playing Zombie Chow is to get it out of your hand quickly, but you could trigger some stuff, and Harvest Golem is really nice to have on the board. The other reason is you haven't dealt any damage yet, which means that Zombie Chow's negative effect is not really effective at the moment, and that was not the intended way I would have put that. Anyway, let's see what the Beast Roulette gives him. That is a good one. Ironfur Grizzly is one of those cards which you never put into your deck, but it's definitely a decent man. It's a good bear, literally, and it does its job. Now, the Defender of Argus I think is the correct play here, because otherwise he's going to lose this thing. I would not silence this. You need that for Houndmaster. I think I play Defender and just kill it. Doomguard coming down next turn. Interesting, going for the tap. I think actually, Knife Juggler could do some serious damage here. Playing out the Juggler could do it here. And then sacking the Harvest Golem. I don't agree with that turn at all, actually. He has to run it into the 3-3 then. Yeah, he does. But I don't agree with that turn. That's too open-ended. I think you just slam Loatheb and then trade everything. Trade off the board. Go for the board control with a 5-5. The one problem with this is you're subjecting yourself to Doomguard. However, you're doing that either way. So we're going to see a Snap Doomguard come down here. Take out that 5-5. Just feel happy that you took out the 5-5. So we see the Feel Bad Soulfire getting discarded there. What do I mean by the Feel Bad Soulfire? That is a 5-mana Soulfire. That is a Feel Bad Soulfire. Mad Scientist and Lepronome seems to be the correct play here along with Hero Power. You really want value out of your Houndmaster, especially in this matchup. We could very well see a Iron Beak Owl come down on this 2-2. But this is when it starts getting complicated. I think Knife Juggler, Iron Beak Owl, or... No, I think Zombie Chow comes down now. Maybe Defender. Actually, if you Defender, then you can just kill it for free. I say for free, it's not quite for free, but it's close to for free. I think you're going to win by trading. You're not going to win by being aggressive. Now, the value Black Knight is valuable. Well, I say it's valuable. He could run the Leopardum into it, but it means that the 3-2 also dies. That's the only value you could possibly get out of Black Knight. It's the reason why Black Knight isn't that bad against Zoo. It's not good, but it's not terrible. Alright, so what do we got? Flame Imp, Zombie Ugh. Flame Imp dealing damage to yourself is not preferable right now. Tapping is fine. Undertaker... I think Knife Juggler, Zombie Chow. Maybe Undertaker's... This Zombie Chow is really gathering dust right now. I think it should have been probably taken out of the handle a long time ago. He's taking way too much damage right now because of the Flame Imp and Life Tap and things like that. I don't think this race is going to be won. Depends a lot on what he draws though. Oh dear. Haunted Creeper, Houndmaster. Sounds legit. And I think you kill the Knife Juggler. And Hero Power. Yeah. Perfect sense. Zumwanna is on a clock right now. A double clock, if you will. However, double Death Rattle minions will help here a lot. Still has to trade. Bit of a mistake there, going for the time first. Sequencing. Alright, so he's going to clear this board completely apart from the 2/1/1s, which is fine. The problem is that he's still taking damage, and I don't know if he can even raise the Hero Power at this point. Oh, wow. A second Haunted Creeper, Houndmaster, Hero Power turn. That is just unfair. That is a crazy, crazy set of double top decks there. I guess this really showed just how powerful Haunted Creeper is in the Hunter decks. I mean, Hunter uses Haunted Creeper the best out of any of the decks that play it, which is a lot of them. It's a very good card. Yeah, I think the Life Tap is just kind of a, what can I possibly draw? So, final score, 2-1 to Theude. Now, the first game was a very, very interesting game where we saw two control decks facing off and really doing kind of what they can to outsmart each other. The second game was a case of showing just how good the Hunter aggro deck is at beating control decks, which is the reason he brought it in the first place. And the third game was kind of the situation where in control mirrors there's a lot of decision making. In aggro mirrors, a lot of people write it off as being skillless. I disagree highly. I think aggro mirrors are very skill-based, and you can definitely see the difference all the time depending on who's piloting each deck. Draws do factor into it, however, the RNG on draws has been limited a lot recently because of Buzzer being nerfed and things like that, and also Leroy being less significant. So I think aggro mirrors are actually very, very interesting to watch right now. So in this particular series we saw a control mirror, a control versus aggro, and an aggro mirror, which is a very, very interesting set of games to get out of just two decks from each player. But anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. If there's anyone that you'd like to see on Versus Series in the future, let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. But anyway, as for now, it's been Jotto, signing off.